Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here for Fireside Chat number
192.
192. We got to do something on the 200th. So, of course, Otto welcomes you. I get a great deal of fan mail for Otto. Otto appreciates it and has asked me as often as possible to thank you for the loving attention that you give him. So, once again, for those new to this, and just to review, I get a chance to just think things through with you, offer you thoughts from my mind and heart, and then take your questions each week at what we call the Fireside Chat. So I was sent some information sent out by Benny Johnson of Turning Point USA from Iowa, where they're injecting the critical race theory and other anti-white, blacks are victims curricula into the educational system. And I want to review some of it because of it's so important that it be dealt with rationally and morally. So, for example, there's a list here of examples of racism across levels. So it's got a pyramid and socially unacceptable, overt white supremacy, lynching, hate crimes, the N-word, KKK, which, by the way, is true. Those are, in fact, overt hate-filled things, and probably usually an example, in fact, always an example of a sense of white supremacy. I could do what I want to a black. The point to be made about that is it's exceedingly rare today. We agree that it happened, but this is a long time ago. The conflating of the past and the present on the part of the left is one of its sort of sleights of hand. It's like a little magic trick that it does. Well, you ask them for what are examples of white supremacy, and then they give you the examples: lynching, hate crimes, burning crosses, KKK. But they're very, very rare today. Do they not exist? Everything exists. So I think one has to be honest about the present situation. Then it gives examples of covert white supremacy. In other words, hidden. But it's still white supremacy. And among their examples, which is what I want to go over with you, Make America Great Again. That, by the way, is near the top, near overt white supremacy. The claim Make America Great Again is considered to be on the borderline of lynching in this pyramid. I know many people who loved the statement Make America Great Again, and not one of them would have the slightest sympathy with any evil done to a black human being for being black. This is just a magnificent lie. It is a way of, which is what all of this is about, giving power to the left and the Democratic Party. By teaching people, which is a hate-filled notion, that if you say Make America Great Again, you are a white supremacist. I love the statement Make America Great Again. And you would say, well, why America wasn't great? Well, I'll give you an example. In the 1950s, very few children in America, black or white, were born to a mother who did not have a husband. Now, 41% of all children, more than 70% of black children, are born to an unwed mother. I have that in mind, as do many others, as an example of making America great again. where children had an opportunity to be born in a home with two married parents. Why is that racist? Isn't it racist not to wish black children have a dad in their home? Isn't that far more likely to be something that's anti-black? So when people say make America great again, that is one of the things that comes to mind, the centrality of the nuclear family. Nobody that I know of, and virtually nobody, it's hard to imagine almost anyone in America. Oh, make America great again. Yeah, let's go back to where blacks cannot be served at a restaurant with a white. The only people today for racial segregation are people on the left. They're the ones who are pro all black dormitories and black graduation ceremonies. Liberals and conservatives are not for segregation. Leftists are. So make America great again, to brand that as an expression of white supremacy is just a plain outright lie. Next, denial of white privilege. So if you deny white privilege, you are a covert white supremacist. Right. So I think of my friend Adam Carolla. Adam and I made the movie No Safe Spaces. We have gone around the country doing dialogues together. I'm rather close to Adam. He's a terrific human being. And he speaks often of his upbringing. And it was the opposite of white privilege. It was dysfunctional in the extreme. It's an individual basis. You know what privilege exists in America? Two-parent privilege, functional family privilege. Being an American is a privilege. That's why so many people want to move to this country, including vast numbers of Africans, because everybody except Americans knows what a privilege it is to be an American. Those are the real privileges, infinitely more so than white privilege. There's values privilege if you're raised in a home which teaches you self-control, self-discipline, and hard work, and get married before you have a child. That's privilege, but not skin color. Euro-Centric Curriculum, that is considered white supremacist. A Euro-Centric curriculum in America makes perfect sense. America came from Europe. I would expect a Japan-centric curriculum in Japan, an Asian-centric curriculum in China. That is what every culture does. It has a centric curriculum of its roots. It's perfectly appropriate. But there's another reason for a Euro-centric to the extent that it exists, because there is the belief, in Japan as well, I might add, that much of European art and music was and literature was among the greatest ever. There were great Japanese paintings, by the way. There were great Japanese writers. Everyone acknowledges that fact. But in Japan, if you ask people, what is your favorite music? Many will say Beethoven or Bach. There are more orchestras per capita in Japan playing Beethoven than in the United States. So is that a Euro-centric curriculum in Japan because Japan is white supremacist? It's a little absurd, is it not? Everything the left says is absurd. Liberals, I do not include with the left. They unfortunately defend the left. That's a separate issue. But leftism is just always wrong. It's a very destructive force. This is a perfect example. Make America Great Again is not white supremacist. Denial of white privilege is not white supremacist. Euro-centric curriculum is not white supremacist. Next, mass incarceration. There's a very simple question to be asked. Why is a disproportionate number of black males in prison? Notice not black females. Truly, one would imagine that if the country were putting blacks in prison for no good reason, that would include black females, but they're not. Black males are in prison disproportionately because black males disproportionately commit violent crimes. That's the reason. That's not anti-black, it's just pro-truth. If you care about blacks, you want to figure out why is that happening. So here is a hint. 85% of those in prison of any color for a violent crime did not grow up with a father. Okay? That's not a color issue. That's a father issue. What else? Let's see. Celebration of Columbus Day makes you a white supremacist. Well, here's an interesting question about that. If everything having to do with Columbus is to be rejected, why hasn't Columbia University changed its name? Can't get more woke than Columbia University. It's about as left and as anti-intellectual a university as you can find in America. I went there, I know. So why don't they change their name? Why do we drop Columbus Day but not Columbia University? Columbia University comes from Columbus. That's what it is. Could have been Columbus University, but it's Columbia. Because if they changed their name to Indigenous Peoples University, they'd get much less funding and far fewer students would apply because it wouldn't have the same clout as the name Columbia. So they're phonies. They want money. This is all baloney about Columbus Day. That's all. And Columbia University is proof. Columbus, Ohio is proof. Why doesn't Columbus, Ohio change its name to Indigenous People, Ohio? That's what they changed the name of the holiday to. We're living in a state of fraud. It's all Twilight Zone-ish. What else do we have here? Yeah, those are the examples. That's what you're being taught at school as examples of white supremacy. By the way, do you know any white supremacists? I don't. If you are one, drop me a line. Do you know, talk about drop me a line. I have a young woman who's been on my radio show now weekly for the last few weeks. She'll be a senior at Harvard, and she's a wonderful, truly wonderful young woman. And she's been working with me, so she's going through my mail. It's too much mail for me to handle, and she's looking through it. And so she has seen thousands of emails to me. And she made a very insightful comment. Said, if you were a white supremacist, I would have found at least one email from a fellow white supremacist. Isn't that interesting? I guess my dog whistles are not loud enough. Not one. She's seen thousands, and I don't go through them. Where are they? This whole thing is a phony issue. It's sad. It's just a phony issue. All right. So that there's so much more of that example. By the way, one final thing. Please see my column this week at DennisPrager.com or townhall.com or dailywire.com or americagreatness.com, many other places. Epoch Times also now prints it or publishes it. And I ask a question, if America is so racist, is systemically racist, why have millions of blacks come from Africa in the last 50 years? Why do tens of millions still want to come to America? And then I ask the whopper, any Jews moved to Germany in the 1930s? No. Why is that? Why do blacks move to Africa in the millions and no Jews moved to Germany, not one, in the 30s, or at least after 32 when Hitler came to power? Because Germany was systemically anti-Semitic and America is not systemically anti-black. It's one of the great lies. It's the second greatest national lie in history. The first is the blood libel. I wrote about it. I won't go into it now. From the Middle Ages. Blacks who move to America from Africa know what they're doing. They're not fooled by the black and white left in America about the lie that America is anti-black. Blacks come to America because they know this is the land of opportunity for everyone. Okie dokie. We're good. Now time for our video call.
You still waiting for the arm?
I am waiting for the arm. And let's see, I think I know how to do this. I do. All right. Take it away.
Hi, Mr. Prager. My name is Joel Bailey. I'm 21 years old, and I currently live in Arizona for work. But my question is quite tricky. Why do you think Black Americans choose to ignore African immigrants' perspectives when they're the ones that always romanticize the African culture when they know the true realities in which the African continent actually is, but choose to ignore our perspectives when we have a say-so about certain issues in America?
Okay, so I had to somewhat unravel this. Is an excellent question, but I didn't understand who the we was because I thought he was a Black American. Turns out he is from Africa. He is from Cameroon. I was in Cameroon. I know exactly where he's from, in West Africa. He was adopted at the age of 11 by an American, a white American Christian family in Cameroon. I was there, I think, for military reasons. So he is African. He's become, if you will, African American. And he doesn't understand why do African Americans romanticize Africa when they know the truth. It's pretty bad in a lot of Africa. By the way, I say this with love of Africa. I have been to 20 African countries. That's a lot. And I have loved my travels in Africa. It is the untapped potential of Africans in Africa, both in terms of brain power and material wealth, is tremendous. However, there is one thing that guarantees to destroy any hope, and that's corruption, which we are getting in America, by the way. America is more corrupt than ever in its history, just not in my opinion, I am certain of it. The corruption of all of our leading institutions, from the American Medical Association to the NIH and CDC, to the FBI and the CIA and the State Department, to the teachers' unions, the corruption at City Hall in almost every major city. This is unprecedented in America, how much corruption there is. So I worry about my country. But in any event, that is what he is referring to. Why do you Black Americans romanticize Africa? I'm from there. Let me tell you something. You've got it great here. That's in effect his question. And he's absolutely right. And the answer is the left. The left has poisoned many blacks' minds. It has poisoned many whites' minds. It has poisoned many Jews' minds. And I only add that because I'm a Jew, so you'll understand. I know what it's done to every group. If you can't say America is the last best hope on earth, your mind has been poisoned by the left. So it is a very, very valid question. And I thank you, and I look forward to meeting you, and so does Megan. I have no idea if that's true, but I just thought I'd add that. Why not? Okay, to your questions. All right. Brennan, 29, Billings, Montana. I'm a 29-year-old high school graduate Navy veteran working at Costco. I have a buddy that is left-wing, not a leftist. We have been engaging in conversations somewhat regularly. He's 25. Yesterday, I've come to find out he will be graduating university with a major in biology. Seeing an opportunity to make some progress on an issue we disagree on, abortion, I asked him to define life. He stayed silent for nearly a minute until I could not take the awkwardness anymore and defined it for him. I'm dumbfounded. Someone 6 months away from a major in biology is unable to define the term life? How is this possible? I suspect that he was afraid to give you the real answer, and then you would say, well, then in light of that, isn't abortion taking a life? The interesting thing about abortion is that science now backs the conservative view of the value of the unborn human or the human fetus. I don't care which term you use. That's the irony. Science tells us, you know what? That's a life. That's a human life. That's true from conception. But if you want to even make it a later date, beating heart, you still have a pretty early time when there is a beating heart. And brain waves and everything we associate with being human. I have a video at PragerU on abortion, and I say at the beginning, I am not discussing legality, just morality. So don't get defensive, just be intellectually honest. Say, it is a human life, but nevertheless, I don't see anything wrong with extinguishing it up until birth, or up until month 7, or month 6, or month 5. But you've got to take a position with the honesty of that it's not a pimple. When you say a woman can do what she wants with her own body, you are dismissing that which she is carrying as basically a pimple. We're not telling a woman you can't have a breast implant. That's her body. Her breast is her body. But this is not her body. It's in her body. It's a pretty big difference. I would just ask for intellectual honesty. Sherry, 32, Burnsville, Minnesota. Hi, Dennis. Weeks ago, Craig Biddle stated that he can prove that life exists because we all experience consciousness. With this argument, my first thought was that as a Christian, I experience God on a daily basis. So now I'm curious if you experience God, and if so, how? You're one of my favorites, and I'm so thankful for your clarity and truth during this time. Thank you. So let's see. Do I experience God, and if so, how? Well, I am very God-centered. The question of experiencing God is a little tough for me to answer. My way of answering it might be very different from you. I'm sure it would be. So let me explain. My relationship to God is not complex. And here it goes. I want to do what God wants me to do, and that's pretty much it. To be honest. I think about God very often, as it happens, because I think, what does God want me to do? Very often. And I rest in peace. I'm not dead, but I rest in peace, knowing that there is a good God who governs the universe with all the evil and unfairness in it. So that ultimately, after death, there is some way of resolving these inequities of this world. So God gives me peace, but my overwhelming relationship with God is, am I doing what you want me to do, God? Also, I fear God more than I fear Twitter or the New York Times. That's big. That is bigger than any quote-unquote experience. Do you fear God more than you fear what people will say about you? That is the most liberating thing you can live with, and that I do live with. I have written about the following, and I am very open about it. I find loving God a challenge, given how much injustice there is in the world that God made. Now you will say, oh, he didn't make that. He made it a very just world in the Garden of Eden, and then man rejected it, fine. But God made man, and so ultimately, you can't get God off the hook by saying God made the Garden of Eden and man sinned in it. Yes, man sinned in it, but God made a man capable of sinning in it. I never found that persuasive. But it doesn't matter to me. I want to do what God wants. I am more interested in God's approval than I am even in his love, which I know sounds to many of you heretical practically, but I must say I think it's the best. I wish everybody sought God's approval. We'd have a much better world. So one day maybe I'll talk about God and me at greater length. But as I said, it was pretty simple. What would you like me to do, God? Next, Yebom, or Yebom, Y-E-B-O-M, 15 years old, San Carlos, California. Hello, Mr. Prager. Hello, Yebom. I hope your day has been pleasant. They all are. Nearly all are. Could you talk about your general thoughts on friendship? Who to befriend and when to end them? Thank you. That is worthy of a long soliloquy. I could not have survived this life without friends. Friends is my most passionate subject, I think. And I was just telling someone today, since 6th grade, I have had at least one male friend in my life whom I loved. And I mean loved. And who loved me. In fact, my parents were terrific in many ways, but they were not particularly expressive of love. That was that generation. That's the way they were. They expressed love to each other. They had a great marriage of 72 years, but not much to the kids, which is not here or there. This is not a complaint. I'm just explaining why I look to friends for love, and I got it. And it's true to this day. My friends are beyond cherished in my life. And you ask who to befriend? Well, you befriend people whom you can say anything to. That is my criterion for close friend. Because the more you hide, the less close you are with the person. That's true for a spouse. That's true for a friend. That's a very important thing. That's a good subject for one. Why people are not open with others. And well, I'll tell you one of the reasons. People are afraid of being hurt. But if you spend your life being afraid of being hurt, you won't live. You'll survive, but you won't live. As my father used to say, it's only pain. It's a funny statement about pain. It's only pain. But it had its impact on me, that statement. Anyway, you have to be able to say anything you feel, generally speaking. And you also want people who share your values. You won't get hurt by someone who shares your values. I mean, you might not, doesn't mean that you will have a permanent friendship. There are people who share my values who aren't going to be my best friends. I mean, that I understand. But it's not possible to be a close friend and not share my values. So the better you know you, the better it will be to make a friend. But the values thing is critical. And being open with your friend and friends is also critical. The earlier you know that, the happier a life you will have. Nice note to end on. On behalf of Otto, Megan, Nathan, by the way, folks, Nathan is wearing a shirt today that is so red that it is blinding. My eyes are fixated on the camera so that they don't deviate over to what is essentially a sunspot. But having said that, see you next week. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.